Good afternoon, market round number 208. This is the fourth year of production. Thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe if you can. Why do we do this? Because just obviously it's good for information to share with the public and let everyone know what's going on, to share with people who are thinking of buying, just to give you ideas to think about. So this week we're going to cover the latest Rightmove report on house prices. We're going to cover the latest Rightmove survey on what people would like to see come out of the election. We're going to cover the Savills housing supply update, look at Zoopla rentals, and we've got a bit of a report from The Guardian. It's all about what's happening in the structure of the UK market, and this all has influence on making buying decisions. So it's to think about what you're buying and when you're buying it, where are the best places based on it, and what sort of property, I guess. So according to Rightmove, they said that UK house prices have now reached £375,000, which is pretty close to an all-time high. I think it is a record high. You've got to be careful with these sort of figures because the same day Halifax came out and said that prices have fallen by 0.3% in May. That's because they all use different ways of calculating their figures. So some might report one thing, others are more time lagged and so on and so forth. But overall, the general feeling, as I mentioned before, the way the market is that they've turned a corner, and but for the election, prices will be going up. Now, Halifax expects house prices to go up by 3% this year. In fact, Knight Frank say they expect 3%. The closer we get to the magic 3% interest rate. So the more the rates cut, the more it'll happen. And rates at the moment, we did a rate this last week at 5.2% for a lady on a 5-year fix. A 2-year fix was 5.5, and the idea being is end of 2 years, rates should have fallen, but the 2-year fix gives us some planning scope, so to speak. Let's look at house prices. That backdrop is achieved basically against higher mortgage rate. Basically, the number of agreed sales was 17% higher than the same period last year, and in the rental market, Rightmove reported an increase of 8.3% over the 12 months to April. So both are going up. More people are trying to buy. There's been a long period, I think, of people worrying what's going on. It goes back to October last year. We're seeing a lot more people jump into the market now. I think, as I always say, you can wait for all your lights to be green before you set off for work, but how long would it take to get there? Certainly, we'd never get there. So that's what the report is saying. They then go on to survey what people wanted from the upcoming election, and there's a lot of similarities in a lot of reports coming out, and hopefully we're going to see some of this. Basically, like to speed up house building and first-time buyer support. It's the only time in history have we never had any first-time buyer support. It's all ending now. There is no help to buy. There's no any of those sort of things, which have always shored up that first-time bit. And it's the first time in history where it's become so unaffordable, people can't afford to get in. So that's desperately needed. And you do hear that people talk about 95% mortgages from the Labour Party, this, that and the other. And I think those things will come in. Also in the Telegraph today, it's reported that they will get rid of stamp duty for first-time buyers fully. The Conservatives, as they get in, up to, I think, £475,000. And that's a good thing as well, because that will help develop the bottom end of the market. So there's a supply and demand imbalance. As I just mentioned, demand from buyers is up by 15% since 2019, where the actual availability is down by 6%. And it's the same in the rental market. House planning is very slow. If you try and get anything done in the UK, it's very, very slow. We talk about HS2. HS2 is costing 4 times more per kilometre than the TGV in France, which I can say in French, and not that sophisticated. That's because we've got too many planning constraints. That's what people are suggesting should happen. So let's just look at the Savills housing supply update, okay, which covers that first point. And basically, planning consents have fallen 222,000 in the 12 months to 2024. That's the first time since 2008-9 that consents have fallen below completions. That's a pretty grim outlook. Supply crunch. Housing supply could fall to 160,000 in 2024-25. So that is regional disparities. Biggest shortfalls are in the east of England and the East Midlands. 4 English regions failed to meet their housing needs in the year Q1 2024. Buy to rent is going well because that's a money-based thing. And let's just cover that a second about money-based things. There's a great report in The Guardian, and The Guardian says, last month the Winford estate in Glasgow barricaded themselves in a last-ditch attempt to save their homes from demolition. 600 socially rented dwellings designed by Ernest Buteau and developed by the River Kelvin were denied listing status in January and now make way for development of half as many homes with triple the rental value. Since devolution, 77,745 homes have been demolished in Scotland, while the UK as a whole has got rid of 50,000 buildings a year, particularly targeting social housing. So you look at rent controls in Scotland, it's all a misnomer. They've got rent controls, but then they're knocking down half their social housing. That's why it doesn't work. You can't just have one thing, say social housing, rent controls, and it's a plaster that'll fix everything. It won't. In London, they demolish a larger proportion of social housing than any other region in the UK. It's knocked down at least 161 council and housing and social estates since 1997. A loss of 55,000 homes and the displacement of 131,000 people. Is another 100 that are under attack. And if you just look at the Olympics in London, part of it, getting it, was all this social housing they were building in East London. It was going to be the great big thing, is you'd be able to be a poorer person, live in social housing and just get down to the Olympics. 90% of those flats, 90% have now been sold to private developers and are now occupied by private tenants, paying far higher rents. So this is the shortfall. If there's money at the heart of it, this is what people are doing. And from us buying from overseas, trying to make money from buy-to-let, which I know is not very popular, and I see the comments every week, rest in peace landlords, we shouldn't be making money off the poorer people. Well, that's true, but someone's going to do it. So if we're trying to build pensions, it's what we try to do, whether it's right or wrong. So the point is that from our perspective, if we're buying property on a buy-to-let basis, it's being rewarded because more and more of it is available, and it's being driven by the councils in the UK. The NIMBYs, not in my backyard. They're saying, don't build in our green space, knock down the inner cities who haven't got much of a vote anyway, which is what does happen. And from an environmental perspective, how about this? Cement production accounts for 8% of greenhouse emissions globally. 8%. The UK Green Building Council estimates that 25% of the UK's emissions are directly attributable to the built environment. They go on to say, as a rule of thumb, erecting a new building produces more than a tonne of carbon or equivalent greenhouse gases per square metre. It means that demolishing a 100 square metre home to make way for one of the same size increases carbon emissions and doubles during the build process the emissions that were formerly used to build the first house. And if you talk about EPCs certification, if they're going to cost on average £10,000 to £15,000 if they ever come in per home, how is that going to affect houses where you've got an average house price of £100,000? It's not going to happen. There needs to be a change, I don't know how to say it, but root and branch, the very basic change to the way things are being done in the UK. So it's not about purely building property for profit. Yes, I think that's okay, but the social housing side of it needs to be addressed. And this is what Rightmove goes on to say. This survey said it should be incentives for greener homes. There's a lack of awareness or knowledge of what the incentives are at present. Simplify and speeding up the home buying process so that you can actually make it happen quicker. Other things they need to do are stamp duty reforms. That should be one of the mainstays. Keep that going. Introduce first-time buyer support. Get back to doing that. If you look at it from a global perspective, a UK perspective, first-time stamp buying duty extensions apply to 4% of homes in London, but 71% of the North East. So it should be stamp duty exclusions based on the value of the property in that region. That's a great idea. The House Building Federation goes on to say they've got a report called An Engine for Growth, Prosperity and Opportunity, and they say build more affordable homes, increase the housing supply, increase planning process speed, green homes, train the builders how to do it, get rid of the planning disproportionate moratorium in planning in certain areas. 74 local authorities in the UK currently don't allow building. That's 160,000 houses not being built because of that, and that's the NIMBYism. So there's a lot of positivity, a lot of good ideas that people are coming up with as to what the Conservative or Labour government going forward should have. Whether they'll listen to that, who knows? Hopefully they will, and we'll get more of a balanced market. So very quickly, just onto the rental market for Zoopla from yesterday's report. Inflation has fallen to 6.6%, the lowest rate for 30 months. London rents are up by 3.7% the last 12 months, so it's the fastest slowdown. Rental demand is down 25%, but it's still 50% more than pre-pandemic. So that's a shortage of property in the UK. Headroom for rental growth is in most affordable areas is good. Supply and demand imbalance will continue to narrow slowly. essential for political parties to put forward specific policies to grow the size of the private rented sector. Well, that's not mentioned at any other surveys. So what we're seeing is the housing market, I think it's stable, it's getting ready to pick up. Once we've gone through the election, whoever wins, we've had talk of the Labour Party bringing in rent controls. You don't see the full story, do you? They talk about it in Scotland, but there's no control over the sale of social housing blocks. I mean, how is that fair? So you need to have rent controls where it is controlled properly. You need to have strong leadership, and we aren't seeing that anywhere. So what we will see going forward, I believe, is more of this mismatch, and you'll see more people living in rented accommodation. You know, there's a great quote: 15 people per unit are trying to get into them because there's such a shortage. There's 50% less units out there available for rental. So we can actually be part of that and try and help people get into the market and live somewhere nice, and at the same time try and help society and to help ourselves, or not. At APW we believe that, you know, by buying property, we're not doing something that's not correct. We're doing the right thing and helping ourselves make money and help society by giving people places to live. If you're not a slum landlord, you've got nothing to be ashamed of, frankly. I know that's not a very popular thing to say, but that is the way it is. You know, I've had tenants all my life. I've had some pretty bad tenants who've abused me, who've, you know, broken my properties, who've wrecked the places and left without paying rent. At the same time, I've had some terrific people. By and large, 9 out of 10 things you worry about don't go wrong. And the sort of tenants you get are reflective of the sort of person you are and the sort of property you give. So when you're buying a property, I spoke to a gent this week who wanted to buy £50,000 properties in Manchester, do them up and rent them out. Yes, that could work for sure, but you're far better off buying a property that's going to be safe, hygienic to live in. It's going to have good electrical, it's going to be environmentally friendly, it's going to have all the right things going on as far as insulation, and you'll rent that out to people who will respect you as a landlord and respect the property and treat it well. That way you'll have a profitable unit. Let's hope the future government helps us build more of those, both on the social housing front and in the private rental sector, so we can supply that to everyone. So there we go, that's market wrap number 208. A bit different from how I started. If you get a chance, go back and see them in my suit. I think it's more, over the years we've learned a lot more about properties, not about, is it just about the figures? It's also the emotional part of it as well. Anyway, thank you very much. Do like, subscribe if you can. Take care. Cheerio.